Hi, Tom Gardner here with longtime Motley Fool contributor Morgan Housel, and we're going to talk a little bit about this election year for investors. So, Morgan, election years are very busy times in the news. What does it mean for us as investors? What happens in the markets over time, and how should we think about investing now?
Well, look, we all have beliefs about politics. We all have our sides and what we want to happen during election years, and we all have investing views. But I think when you mix those two together, or even when those become anywhere near each other, you almost always have bad decisions. You have to keep those things as separate as possible. There's a really long history during presidential years of very smart investors and certain economists saying, if X wins the election, buy these stocks. If Y wins, here's what's going to happen to the economy. And we can go back and look at how these have done, and almost universally they have terrible track records. I think it's just very easy to associate the side that you want to win with the economy that's going to do well, and vice versa. And there's just so much evidence that it's wrong. I'll give you a few certain examples. A lot of people said in 2000, if President Bush wins, buy the bank stocks because there's going to be bank deregulation. Banks are going to do very well. By the end of his term, almost all the banks were bankrupt. This was the financial crisis. A lot of people said if Barack Obama wins in 2008, buy the green energy companies, buy the solar companies. And if you had followed that advice, the solar companies fell off a cliff because of competition from China. So it's very easy to create a simple narrative around what's going to happen tied to the election. But the economy is so complicated that what actually happens in the real world is often totally defies whatever that simple narrative
I gave a speech in Houston during the last election, and a man came up to me, a little group of people after my talk, just having a little conversation, and he said, well, I've been invested for 30 plus years, and I've really never sold. I've remained in the market all the way through. This election is so confusing to me, and I believe, he said, that China is going to step in and try and destroy our currency, and I'm out. I sold for the first time, and I am 100% out of stocks, and of course, we then led into a really incredible market.
And I think this is on both sides. A lot of people really tie the political fears that they have, regardless of what side that is, into they can extrapolate that into the future.
So it's an emotional time, what we're saying is don't act on emotion. But if none of these predictions are right, what predictions are right? What should we be doing?
I think you should do the same thing with your money, regardless of who's going to win. You should be saving money in a way that brings you closer to your goals, buying good companies, holding them for the long run. Regardless of what happens in Washington, what happens this year for the election season, I think that's what everyone should be doing, and not changing it based off of who's in office.
Okay, good. So what's one investment idea that you think people should think about now? And I'll share one as well, and we'll end the video.
I think more people should just be open to the idea that the United States still has a lot going for it relative to a lot of the other large countries in the world. And if you were to look at the next 30 years, which is, I think, how investors should be thinking, I'm really bullish on the United States. So just taking a really diversified view about how things are going, I'm still a big optimist on where things are going.
So almost everyone in the world should have VTI in their portfolio, the Vanguard Total Market Index Fund. It's just a fund that gives you total diversification across U.S. equities.
You're just owning a slice of capitalism.
And we know that fund will be down 10% at some point. It'll be down 20% at some point. But we feel pretty good looking out 5 and 10 and 15 years that you're going to get an excellent return in equities by being a long-term investor, regardless of what happens during this election season. Morgan, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom.